It's about the late night shows, mosh pits and stage dives, memories for the rest of our lives. Through all the shit and all of the noise, we'll be here for each other, us four boys. Keeping it real, breaking the mold, no suffering in silence. More stories told, tough or bold, it ain't weak to speak. Friends forever with hearts of gold. Punk and hardcore where we were raised. Always embrace this music's in our veins. It's not a phase, more like a whenever. And guess what? It's gonna be this way forever. Looking back on all these years, truth is we're getting older. So many tears. Some don't have a choice to live their own way. So always remember that we're living for today. Keeping it real, breaking the mold, no suffering in silence. More stories told, tough or bold, it ain't weak to speak. And I hope you'd agree that moving forward is the key. Working hard to where we were raised. Always embrace this music's in our veins. It's not a phase, more like a whenever. And guess what? It's gonna be this way forever. Punk and hardcore where we were raised. Always embrace this music's in our veins. It's not a phase, more like a whenever. And guess what? It's gonna be this way forever.
Our economies and political systems are unconsciously predicated on the belief that nature will continue to be a benign and regular provider of the conditions we need to thrive. Regular seasons, dependable fresh water, endless fish, pollinators, minerals, soil. It's now apparent that the Holocene has ended and our stable, reliable planet no longer exists. The impacts of this destabilization will profoundly impact every country on Earth. When you think about it, there is perhaps no more unstable planet. The only conditions modern humans have ever known are changing and changing fast. You are all in position to make more moves than most. If ever we need a strong steel,
See the brightness in the world. One day we'll take your minds. Hit the road in our world.
Ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, Animals of all ages, welcome to another event here at ASA's LMU Monday Night Sprint Series here at Sensational TV. And if the broadcast is going to go anything like Greg Brock tonight, I'll tell you what, that is probably something we don't want to preempt here tonight. But I'm joined here in the commentary box, as always, with the ever dependable and myth, legend and man himself, Lindsay Muddle. How are you today, my dear friend?
I am doing very, very well, and I am excited to see all the racing action tonight here in Circuit of the Americas, and the multi-class here, especially with those S's, is going to be quite chaotic, I'd happen to believe. How are you doing, Zach?
Very good, mate, very good, thank you. Fresh off a classic V8 Supercars event last night, so the vocal cords are very, very much intact tonight, which is going to be absolutely sensational, and we're looking forward to this one at the Circuit of the Americas. 20 cars on track, split grids. What more do you want? This is round 2 of the season, and you can see there on the calendar that we have done round 1 already. Portimao, done, dusted. 1 and run. We'll get your standings up very, very shortly for you to see what has happened there. This is round 2, Circuit of the Americas, and Bahrain, Fuji Speedway, Interlagos, and Circuit de la Sarthe, or Le Mans, as they usually say. It rounds out the 6th and final round of this series. So you've got us for another 4 weeks after this one, and it's going to be absolutely fantastic here tonight to see all these guys go around. And you can see those practice times there on the screen, Lindsay Muddle. It's Latanzio taking over Mr. Colombo in first position in the hypercar class, and then in the orange little speck next to the numbers of the position there, viewers, is where it switches over to LMGT3s, and it's Spinazzi at the moment on top, just driving the wheels off that Mustang, and another Mustang domination possibly coming our way.
Yeah, and I have 2 questions for you now, Zachariah, as you can see the whole grid. Do we have Alex K, and do we have Tyson Robbs?
We do not. We do not.
Wow.
No Alex K, no Tyson Robbs.
So for the second round running, we don't have Alex K, who's normally right up the front in the hypercar class, and the absolutely dominant winner in the GT3 class at Portugal of Tyson Robbs is not on the grid tonight in GT3. That'll change everything that I was coming to expect into this round, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It's something that we were all hoping to see for this week, is those two come back here and start racing. Mr. LMU himself, Alex K, not doing okay at the moment, obviously. Somewhere else in the ether, probably was at the GP on the weekend and still coming back from his 3-day bend-up, but nonetheless, we're racing tonight, and you've got to be in it to win it, ladies and gentlemen. So it's one of those things. You've got to literally turn up, else you're not going to be anywhere near the points battle at the end of the season. So another round out for Alex K. That's 2. What can he do in the championship? We'll find out in due course nonetheless. But a cracking circuit here at the Circuit of the Americas, a very, very fast opening sector as well, and curvy too. You got the right, left, and then downhill into a sort of a left-handed hairpin, and then a big sucked battle down the back straightaway there too. Downhill, uphill. Fernando Alonso nearly flipped and turned into a Mercedes-Benz of the yesteryear in year 2000, and luckily was saved by the rear diffuser. But hopefully we don't see any of that action tonight here, ladies and gentlemen. And with 1 minute and 46 seconds left here in qualifying, we've got a bit to go through. So without further ado, let's go racing. We are at round 2, Circuit of the Americas, or C.O.T.A, as they tell everyone else on the broadcasting side of things. 20 turns of absolute mayhem coming our way here. 5.15 kilometres long as well, so a fair bit of distance to cover, and you can have a look at all of those turns there. You've got turn 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 10. Basically just S's, Silverstone style there, so a big battle coming our way for all these guys in the multi-classes to navigate their way through that. Keep your eyes out for that in the race. 15 minutes though is qualifying tonight, and it is a private session as always, with 60 minutes or an hour of racing in the 2 classes of the hypercars and the LMGT3 vehicles. And the standings so far for the series after round 1, it's Mohamed Colombo on top, Harry Lawrence in second, Latanzio on third, and Paul Britt, Hani Kuri round out your top 5 there, with Vincent Achandra, Greg Brock, Matt Lamb and Guterres spinning themselves inside that top 3. And when it comes to the GT3 class as well, we can see a man who is not here tonight. Tyson Robbs is not on the circuit. He's leading the championships. But I'll tell you what, Shawnee Madison is here. So he's going to be hoping to get up into P1 by the end of this round in second place. Shawnee Brimblecoat in the hairbrush himself in third, with Dylan King Spinazzi rounding out your top 5. Matt Herod, Lachlan Andrews, Ash Johnston, Benny Collins and Hayden Marsh in the top 10. And every single one of those guys there, apart from Tyson Robbs, is here tonight. So this could change and topsy-turvy itself by next week. That should be interesting to have a look at. And with these guys racing around now, you can see that the timing tower has ticked to 0. So let's have a look at the final qualifications of the practice session there. And you can see there by all of the timing towers on the side, you cannot see anything with Mohamed Colombo Latanzio 1.2 seconds away in the end. Holy mackerel, that's a bit of pace to carry onwards into qualifying. Chris Weitzel in third, and Vintner and that is Fowler in the 5th place there, Lindsay.
Yes, it is. And then Harry Lawrence right behind Fowler in 6th position. Then Haney Curie in 7th position. Then you have Eric Chandra, Greggy Brock, and Nathan Wilson rounding out your hypercar class. Then you have Spinazzi in the 1st position in the GT3 class. Then Ash Johnston, Luke Fleming, and then you have Phil Rando in the 5th position. Not 5th position, 4th position in the GT3 class. I got there in the end. And then you have Shawnee Brimblecombe, the hairbrush, in the 5th position. Then you have Matthew Herod, Sean Madison, Hayden Marsh, Benny Collins, and Dylan King rounds out your GT3 order. So, by the looks of it, we have 10 cars in each class tonight, so maybe not as much as we're usually used to, but around Circuit of the Americas, that might take a little bit of stress off of all the drivers around here, because by no means is it going to be easy to get around the traffic at this circuit.
No, not at all. And with that said, Lindsay Muddle's just been outdone by Rifki Afiat. He's rocked up. So now we've got 11 drivers in the hypercar class and 10 for the GT3. So a little bit of practice coming Rifki's way in terms of qualifying sessions. So not the ideal place you want to be in for a qualifying session, not setting a time in that server. But nonetheless, it's okay. And that's what brings us here at LMU. You just never know what is going to happen. And the server has just ticked over into qualifying. Private session, ladies and gents. Private session. So, what are we going to see? Are we going to see anyone come out of the pits first? Yes, we are. And that is this man, Chris Weitzel, on screen in the Ferrari as he gets out and early into qualifying for himself. He's the first of the hypercars out on track. We've got Spinazzi's already making his way down the pit exit as well. Ash Johnston coming through as well. With those cars disappearing, ladies and gents, it is a private quali. So all the clean air that you want. Absolutely pure bliss to race around Circuit of the Americas there in any class when it is private qualifying. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And this man, Chris Weitzel here, better start getting his gallop on at the moment to get himself further up into the grid rather than 3rd place. He's got Latanzio and Colombo, very quick customers in front of him, Lindsay Muddle, as we round the 1st sector.
Yeah, it's all about being able to push your car to the limit here in the lone qualifying sessions, especially at a track like Circuit of the Americas, especially around that S section before you come up into this uphill chicane. Definitely a very tricky part of racetrackers. There we go. There's a cold tyre spinner in that hypercar. Now we swap to the BMW of Wittner as he is on his outlap at the moment, but heading through the S's is Ben Wittner. But it's all about just being able to push your car to the absolute limit without letting it slide away from you and losing lap time. And I think we're going to see a lot of drivers struggle for that. Especially the Americans an extremely tricky racetrack in Sector 3, especially if your tyres aren't properly up to temperature or properly pressured, could be very, very tricky. And with no ABS in the hypercar class, the 3rd sector long left-hander, I can't remember what corner number it is, but it's a very tricky corner not to lock the inside left.
Yes, definitely. And that could be the tyre that starts screaming to the high heavens before the racing is ended. And that is Ben Vinter just pulling out. He's not on it. There is a little bit of a bug as well in the game that has not been rectified, ladies and gentlemen, in the hypercars. If you select a medium tyre and you go out, it puts you in hard by default. You have to then come into the pits and then choose the medium tyre on your data panel, and then it changes to your medium tyre. So a little bit of a bug there as well coming our way for these hypercar drivers. So they're going to be as towy as a Roman sandal if they can get it in there, and hopefully their game doesn't bug out by the end of it. But it looks pretty racy here tonight, I reckon, with all these tight, very fast corners. It's going to be when a hypercar comes up to a GT3, something to witness, especially when you've got that difference of speed. The apex is just going to be one of those hot property real estate things. And let's go on board here with the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Gregory Brock. Lindsay Muddle, take us away for another beautiful lap here at the Circuit of the Americas.
All right, Greg Brock here on board, telemetry up in the Alpine hypercar as he makes his way up towards turn 1. You can brake a lot later than you think as it's a massive uphill and then a blind apex, very tricky to get to, a little bit too much inside curb there for Greg Brock as he now makes his way through the flat out right-hander of turn number 2 and then into the tricky challenging S section. It's like a roller coaster through this section, left, right, and left again, and then a long right-hander. The cars love to understeer through this section. The tyres screaming out for help on the outside left, and then tip it up into this lovely chicane where it feels like your stomach's falling inside out when you're in the cockpit as you go up and down and left and right, and then completely flat out now up towards the hairpin to head onto the straight. This is a critical corner around the lap. If you don't get this corner right, you'll lose a lot of lap time heading onto the straight. Minimum speed there for Greg Brock of 68 kilometers an hour as he now presses his throttle all the way to the floor and hopes his car goes as fast as he needs it to as he heads down the straight, approaching speeds now of 290, passing 290 k's an hour, 300 k's an hour just about as he heads into the heavy anchored hairpin, and then just get it tipped across and then power out and open up the next long right-hander. Very easy to lock the inside front right tyre and then power out. Don't lose the rear and just keep the car in check and then into the long left-hander. This is the left-hander I was talking about. Super easy to lock the inside. Very hard to find the apex. It's a blind apex for one, and also the car's just understeer through that whole corner, and then the triple apex right-hander in an open wheel car, that's completely flat out. A very satisfying corner to take, but in the hypercar class, very understeery, at least on the onboard here with Greg Brock, but he manages to keep it in check through the medium speed left-hander and then braking into turn number 20, the final corner, down to first gear, power out, and the lap time for Greggy Brock is going to be I'm not sure, honestly, 56.9 if that's Brock's time. It is, so 56.998 as the first driver to set a lap in the hypercar class.
Yeah, that's not too bad there from Gregory Brock. He's on top, but everyone else is going around doing 11, 12, 13 second lap time slower than what he is. So something to work on for the rest of the grid. Let's go out to the GT3 guy. Oh, that's not a GT3 car. Let's go to Phil Rando here in the Porsche. Driving the tits off this car tonight, I reckon Rando will be. A nice car, I reckon, to drive around the Circuit of the Americas. The inertia will sort of turn you in where you want to, rather than that understeer we're just talking about there with the hypercars for LMU. But nonetheless, he is driving really well this season, is Phil Rando. So we'll hopefully see him come around, and he is, at the moment, qualifying it really nicely. Overall, he is still 12, 13 seconds off the gap, and he's 5th overall in his class as well. So a little bit of work to do. We'll get the mixed classes up there as well in terms of the multi-class timing tower, so you can see where everyone is. Grand scheme of things at the moment, and it's Eric Chandra now on top in the hypercar class with a 156.1. 8 tenths quicker than Gregory Brock. Johnston's gone the quickest overall in the GT3s by 1.6 seconds, and the gap behind them, though, is so close between Madison King Fleming and Phil Rando. Not even 2.5 tenths splitting those guys, and we've only got 9 minutes left here, Lindsay.
Yeah, the GT3 class close as ever, and that's exactly what the BOP in the GT3 class aims to do. There's very close racing between all of the cars, and the same goes for the hypercar class, but because of how difficult they are to drive, it does make it harder to be close together, and it's a lot more of a skill gap sort of car. You've really got to drive it out and drive it into all of the corners to get a lot of lap time out. You've got to be willing to wrestle the car, as we are looking at Mohamed Colombo here as he makes his way through the triple right. This is an outlap for Colombo, so we'll stay with him for his whole next lap in that Ferrari 499P. A 56.1 is the time to beat, and it's also set in a Ferrari, so no excuses in the car department either here for Colombo as he sets off for a lap. As Chris Weitzel, wowee, a 1 minute 53.6 in the Ferrari. So now Colombo really has a time to chase as he heads up towards turn 1, heavy on the anchors. Just tip it through towards the turn 1 apex and then power out. All you've got to do is find the apex at turn 1 and you'll have a reasonable run through. It's super hard to get to it though with how blind it is, and then left and then commit through the right and then don't overshoot the next left to open up the long right-hander. It feels like it goes on forever. It's almost like the snaily turn 1 at Shanghai. It feels like it's that long as he heads up the hill. It's purple in the first sector, and he is absolutely flying right now in the Ferrari, so he's really going to be on for a good lap as he had a very, very on the limit run through the uphill chicane as he heads now into the slow right-hander. He has to get this right if he is going to put his car onto provisional pole. Right now it's looking like a Ferrari masterclass, but it also did in the F1 before they botched the strategy in Australia. So we'll see if Colombo can finish out the lap, unlike Ferrari being able to finish their races properly in the F1 as Colombo makes his way down towards the hairpin. Spot the Michelin board on the right-hand side, break in between the two of the first ones that you see, get towards the apex, turn it out. Look at how much more on the limit he is than any of the other cars we've looked at so far, all the way over the curb, using every bit of track available. It's very wide there though for Colombo, but he was also purple in the middle sector as he now makes his way through the tricky technical third sector. The tyres already screaming out for help. You can see the lights showing that the TC's on all the way through this traction zone, so maybe a little bit too eager to get the foot down is Colombo as he heads through the triple right-hander, the triple apex corner, and then complete commitment now down to third gear as he heads through the fast left. Don't break track limits. That's just inside here in LMU, and then on the brakes, use the curb on the entry at the final corner. Second gear for Mohamed Colombo as he makes his way across the line. Now is it going to be provisional pole? What's it going to be for Mohamed Colombo? I think it was an invalid lap there for Colombo.
100%. He was way up. He was up in the clouds compared to everyone else. He would have been at least 1.3 or 4 seconds better than Chris Weitzel's best time there. So another bit of thinking to do. And with those soft tyres now 1 lap older than what they ideally should be, he's got no choice here. Not time enough to get himself back into the pits to go around for another session, as the bug there is able to be... Oh, it's not able, actually. It's actually not able to even be fixed. So he's pulled out of that one. Chris Weitzel is still on top. Eric Chandler is 4 tenths away from pipping him. So hopefully Eric can get his motor on, because he's in the pits at this point in time. Shawnee Madison is third overall in the class in his Corvette at the moment. 8 tenths away from Johnston's time there. Ash